Hey, thanks everybody for joining us today for the next session in our Elevate series. Today's topic is aligning price with value, mastering the operational complexities of consumption-based pricing. I'm Mary Christensen, the Director of Product Marketing, and with me is Doug Hamm, a Principal Solution Engineer here at BillingPlatform. Doug has a background in accounting and has been providing solutions to the Office of Finance for over 25 years, with the focus on the billing and quote-to-cash processes for 10 years. Thanks for being with us today, Doug.
Glad to be here.
So to set the stage, I thought a quick review of the evolution and how companies sell products and services might make sense. So let's dive right in. One-time or fixed pricing may not be the first pricing model the world saw, but it came on the heels of auctioning off products or haggling on the price. Sellers realized that it was much simpler just to set a price, and if the customer was willing to pay that price, they sold the product. And that's all well and good, but businesses realized they weren't able to form a lasting relationship with the buyers of their products. So then came subscription services. Early examples include deliveries from milkmen in the UK as long ago as the 1860s, and magazine subscriptions, which began in the late 1800s. In a subscription pricing model, a customer opts into paying a recurring fee for access to a service. And subscription services make up a huge part of our lives. From our phone contracts to the music we listen to, the meals we cook, the films we watch, and even the glass of wine we enjoy with dinner. So why have they become so popular for businesses? Well, it's because they generate recurring revenue. That translates into predictable cash flow and helps businesses to get to know their customers. But as the world rapidly changes, so do customer expectations in how they buy and consume products and services. Today, it's all about making our lives easier. Just in the past decade, we've seen a major shift from ownership to access, with the classic example being an individual who no longer wants to own a car, but uses ride-sharing platforms to get around. Usage-based pricing charges customers based on how much they use your product. So more usage means higher costs. That allows customers to remain in control of how much they spend, as they know what the cost will be. For businesses, its popularity is being driven by its ability to capture value that would otherwise be lost, a vital capability in times of economic uncertainty. Another evolution is dynamic pricing. This is where a company prices based on demand. You see this with airlines. The price you pay for a flight changes dramatically as you get closer to when the plane takes off. These and many more monetization opportunities are being developed as technology becomes available to support their creation. And in fact, according to OpenView, 61% of SaaS companies say they have usage-based pricing, or they are in the process of testing it out. So Doug, a big part of your job is understanding the billing needs of companies and helping them understand options for pricing and services. Can you tell us what some of the common consumption-based pricing models are as you talk to customers?
Yeah, Mary, they kind of fall into a bucket of 8, although there are certainly others that come up from time to time. But some of the core ones, certainly pay as you go. That's kind of your classic consumption-based model where literally it is just, the number of clicks, the API calls, downloads, text messages, minutes, utility usage, transactions, whatever that metric is that a business is capturing based on the usage patterns of their customer, they take that and just charge purely based on the usage. We also see that then combined in an overage model where there might be a subscription that is coupled with that, or there's some amount that the customer gets for free, and anything that is above that is charged out as an overage charged. It provides a little more predictability in revenue and also a little more standard cost or common cost across time for your customer. Then you start getting into some tiered models. One of those is volume discount, or maybe known as bulk pricing. Basically, the more you use, the less you pay per unit. So great incentive for a customer to use more of your product And as they consume more and more, it's cheaper on a per unit basis for the customer. The opposite of that from a tiered perspective is tiered pricing, or otherwise known as waterfall or incremental, where the price changes progressively as the volume increases. Key difference from volume based is that each unit has its own cost, and units over time can actually reduce in cost as they go. So the classic first 1,000 units that I use, I get charged $1 per unit. Once I go over that, I get charged 90 cents a unit for any unit beyond the 1,000. These can be combined with some other concepts, such as minimum commitments, where I may have a pay as you go model, but I want to set a floor that I'm ensured that I'm going to get a certain amount of money. So we see this coming up a lot with kind of pure play pay as you go models, but we want to ensure some kind of minimum entry cost. The other side of that that we're actually seeing more often now is the concept of maximums or caps, where there may be a contractual ceiling set. See this a lot with time and materials type contracts and things like that, where there is a maximum that may be applicable to a billing period or to the life of the contract, even though usage may continue to be consumed. Once it hits that cap, we need to reverse that out and kind of adhere to that maximum. We also see prepaid coming up more and more, where it may be kind of a classic pay as you go, but the company wants to charge for a bulk of usage up front. That may be dollar based, it may be quantity based, but basically allows the customer to prepay for that. And then as consumption comes in, it draws down against that prepaid amount. And the last one here, kind of interesting, is multi-attribute, where basically pricing is dependent on some combination of attributes. As an example, infrastructure as a service. I may be providing, platform for both AWS and Azure. So the price is going to depend on what platform you're on and what size of commitment you are making, and that is going to determine, the combination of those is going to determine what you get charged. Another example, storage, where it may be dependent on the type of storage, could be a shelf, could be a pallet, or some other storage mechanism. And the condition, is it ambient temperature or is it refrigerated, as an example? So just a couple of examples there on multi-attribute.
Those are a lot of options that customers have today. So why has consumption-based pricing become so popular in your opinion?
I think we see companies that we're working with really trying to get a few different benefits out of it. One of those is an improved customer experience. Certainly customer satisfaction and retention, when you're talking anything recurring, is of the utmost importance. With consumption-based pricing, the customer has better visibility into what they're being charged, so they can directly correlate what they're being charged, what's on their invoice, with the usage of the product. They can track their daily progress against any limits or against their budget, and see, at a detailed level what what that consumption is and why they're being charged. Also, they get a taste of that consumption-based pricing, and as they're using it, they may start out slow. As they grow, they kind of feel comfortable with their original commitment, and then can tie that value to increased usage. It also, for the customer, provides additional revenue opportunities, and we kind of see this going a couple of different ways. You may have historically consumption-based industries such as telco, financial services, infrastructure as a service, that have historically been primarily consumption-based, and they are starting to wrap subscriptions and minimum commitments into that to capitalize on their guaranteed income, providing them with more predictable revenue streams. On the flip side, seeing a lot of subscription-based businesses, software as a service, media, industries like that, where they've been, mainly subscriptions historically, but they're adding consumption-based into that to increase the number of items that can be monetized, but it also helps protect margins. So as costs go up through increased usage, they're able to kind of monitor that margin and keep that in check. Scalability, flexibility, for both our customers and the actual eventual end customer. For our customers, it provides them the ability to quickly adapt to changing business needs, provides increased growth potential. And as demand increases, they have visibility into that usage and how that is changing, gives them tools to adjust their own resources to accommodate higher consumption levels. Their end customers on the other side can kind of start small, as I said, and see that product in action, tie that to value, and then continue to consume more or move up to more robust packages as their usage of the product goes. And the last thing really is competitive advantage. Again, back to that agility of being able to charge for things that they haven't historically been able to charge for, aligning business value to the customer's usage of the product, and really tightening that relationship with the end customer.
Those are some really great benefits of using consumption-based pricing. But with all of the examples that you've walked us through, adding this can't be an easy task. So what are some of the challenges that businesses need to be aware of?
Yeah, so a couple things here to cover off. And number one, certainly billing becomes more complicated. When we start talking about tiered pricing and floors, revenue commitments, things like that, a couple of additional questions often come up. We typically think of that as, okay, I have a set of tiers that applies to a billing cycle. When that billing cycle ends, I reset my counter and I start back at zero. We're seeing contracts aren't really written that way all the time anymore. So you have to account for the time horizon. Do I reset that counter every year? If I have a volume discount strategy and I have a customer that in month 9 crosses a threshold where they get a better price, how do I manage the true up on all of the usage that they've already paid for the first 9 months? Aggregation points. So does the pricing only apply to a particular billing account or across an entire hierarchy of accounts? How is that presented if each of those child accounts is being invoiced separately? Are they seeing a weighted average so it's very simple for them to understand, or are they getting kind of the actual price per each unit that's showing up? Without full visibility into the tiers. Another one from a product perspective, do the tiers apply to a single product or across multiple products? So, I'm going to give you discounts based on an aggregate of usage across a number of different products or usage types. Another one, just if I have a billing account, but my tiers apply at a more granular level. So, back to financial services, the tiers may apply to each trader. So how do I take and break the data down so that the tiers are applicable to a lower level of granularity than the billing entity that I'm charging? a lack of predictability for the customer. So back to the customer relationship, on the one hand, it gives them great flexibility and insight. On the other, it provides more variability in what they're being charged because that's going to move in tandem with their usage. So how do you provide the customer with tools to understand that usage, those trends, any anomalies, and do that in a way that doesn't require you to ramp up your support staff to answer those questions, and interject to manage customer satisfaction. Certainly, usage data, and just the whole mechanism of how I deal with that. There are a number of different operational systems that are generally generating high volumes of transactions and events that can be monetized. So you need to have the tools in place to collect that data, properly route it accurately, and make sure that you minimize any billing errors, revenue leakage in that entire process. And the last, basically all of those things kind of lead to the last bullet point, which is having the right tools in place. It is very difficult to move to a consumption-based pricing model if you don't have the infrastructure to be able to support that. And there are a couple of key components there. Number one, anytime you're talking about usage, you need a mediation layer to transform those raw operational records, metrics, into billable records that can be routed to the appropriate customer, assigned to one or more products that can be priced, and the customer can be charged. You have to have the billing and pricing flexibility to meet all of those different models we talked about and some of those challenges, and do that in a way that doesn't inundate your IT department and having to do a whole lot of custom coding there. And last but not least, all of those strategies have revenue recognition implications, and you need a flexible, rules-driven solution to properly calculate and recognize revenue based on those shifts.
You mentioned that mediation was one of those tools that was really a requirement to add consumption-based pricing into the mix. Can you walk us through the process that we see on screen?
Yes, absolutely. And as I mentioned, usage data is coming from a lot of sources, and a lot of different formats. We have customers where that is actually originating in Excel out there today. Most of the time, it's coming from operational systems, and those operational systems may be dumping files, they may be interacting with us based on an API. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to take that usage data, and when we process it, we need to be able to pull out some key elements here. Number one, who used that particular usage record? Was it a particular telephone number, or a customer account, or whatever it might be? So we need to know who. We need to know what was used, and that one is, you need a lot of flexibility in that, because it's not typically in those usage files is not something that says this is product X. It says it is a particular type of record, and based on one attribute or multiple attributes, we need to be able to route that to one or more products. Again, an individual record may generate multiple charges depending on the requirements there. We need to know when the usage took place so we can properly put it on the appropriate invoice. And we need to know how much. And that how much could be a quantity that we're being given. That could be a time duration. That could be just the fact that, okay, this event happened and therefore my quantity is one. So it's not always as simple as, okay, you're telling me that there was a consumption of 5 widgets. In addition to that, usage data is often very rich with additional fields that are required to price, to report, to route. So having extensibility and being able to capture that usage data and all of the attributes that are actually meaningful to the business. When we process that, we need to have a alerting mechanism that's kind of sitting on top of all this thing, because we'd like to say all usage goes through and there are never any errors. But anybody who believes that, that's not a typical use case. There is going to be something we can't find a rate for, or we don't know who it belonged to, or we don't know what product it is. So you need a robust error management system where I can research, I can correct, and I can reload those records and make sure that, again, I'm not suffering from revenue leakage there. And then the last piece coming out of all of that is the rating of those records and managing a complex hierarchy of rates, which could be everything from, a specific product rate for the customer, agreed upon contracts. It could be in a hierarchy. The rates could be agreed at a higher level in the hierarchy, and full management of default rates. So, if there's nothing customer specific anywhere, what am I going to charge this particular customer?
So that sounds like a hugely complicated process, but also if you have the right tools in place, it's definitely doable for companies to add in consumption-based pricing. So thanks, Doug. That was great to hear about the advantages, the challenges, and the requirements needed so companies can add consumption-based pricing into their selling mix. So for those of you not familiar with BillingPlatform, we help companies deploy the pricing models that best suit their company. Our cloud-based platform enables them to easily automate even the most complex quote-to-cash processes, as Doug walked us through, from simple subscriptions all the way through to complex, high-volume, usage-based pricing models. Our platform is incredibly flexible, powering our customers to bring new products and services to market 30% faster and reduce operational spend by as much as 50%. This unmatched agility puts enterprises in control of how they differentiate themselves in a crowded marketplace, helps them to maximize profitability, reduce operational costs, and optimize the customer experience. So if you're interested in learning more about how to add consumption-based pricing to your business, or if you have any questions about what was presented today, please contact us.